Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a beautiful little chickadee. In today's project, I'm going to show you in less than 25 minutes how to paint a little songbird. And this bird is called a chickadee. It's a native bird to where I live in Canada. And I've tried to simplify the process so that there's not too much detail needed, and we can just do some really nice wet into wet washes and then add a little bit of detail to finish it off so that this doesn't take too much time. I've transferred my drawing onto watercolor paper. I'm using Arches 140-pound cold press paper, and now I'm using a number 4 brush to make a nice clean water wash all over the drawing. I've already mixed my colors up, and now I am just dropping in the first color, which is a grayish purple, and I'm using a purple color, which maybe you would not expect for a realistic looking bird, and I'm putting this in areas where there may be some reflected light onto the bird, and this will just give your painting more depth and interest. So you can use some subtle reflected colors, sometimes blue, purple, even pinky gray colors under your wash when you first start painting, and this will help the painting look a little bit more three-dimensional with some more depth in it. So if you'd like to try this, then you can just add a little bit of gray to something like Windsor Violet, or just water it down a lot and just add it in. And you can see I'm just dropping in most of the paint. And so this bird is, I've wetted the entire painting besides the legs and the beak and the eye. And now I'm dropping in a bit of a black color, and I've mixed my black with ultramarine and burnt sienna and a bit of purple. So I'm not actually using black paint. You could use black if you'd like. And now I'm just going around looking at the bird, the photo I'm painting from, and just sort of mapping out what the markings look like. So chickadees are sort of black and white with some peachy, sort of beigey colors and warmer colors on their belly. So I'm just adding in the black areas, and I'm reserving the white areas just to be the white of the paper. And so this is the first wash, so I'm doing this all while the paint or the water is still wet on the paper. Now I'm adding in those sort of tawny, peachy, almost like yellowy colors. I've used some yellow ochre and light burnt sienna for this. You can try different mixes of whatever colors you have. And I'm just sort of looking at it and dropping it in. My first wash is now complete, and the important thing with this type of painting is you must let your washes dry before you move to the next step. So off camera, I've already dried that first wash. You can dry your painting with a hairdryer to speed it up, and now I've moved on to the eye. You can use black for the eye, or you can mix up the same sort of black mix and just make it darker and more concentrated. And I'm using a 00 brush for this part, as it is a small, delicate little area, and I'm just making sure I leave a little bit of white paper for a highlight. Now I finished the eye, and then I just added a little bit of darker color around the back of the eye to define it. And I'm just moving on to the next step. I made sure that the eye is completely dry, and I'm just working on the beak a little bit. I've added a little bit of a lighter black wash onto the beak as well. And I'm just sort of cleaning that area up a bit, because I just felt like some of the darker color went a bit too far in. So I'm just using some clean water on a damp brush to agitate the paint, and then dabbing it with a paper towel just to lift a little bit of the color off. And this is a great way or method to use if you make a mistake or put a bit too much color on. I'm just going to let that area dry a little bit, and I just map a little bit of color in for the legs, and I'm using that grayish purple again just because it does sort of imitate the reflected light you would see on the legs of the bird, and they're not always black or brown. They're often some reddish pink tinges into the little legs on songbirds, and this creates some more interest. I finished the first wash on the legs, and I'm going to go back to the body of the bird. By now, the first wash all over the bird is completely dry, and I'm just trying to show you how you can see the water glistening a little bit on the paper there. You want a thin, even wash. You don't want any puddling, and you just look until it's sort of glistening, has a certain sheen over it to get the right wetness to start adding the paint in, so it'll spread nicely, as you can see, but not run everywhere in a watery mess. And that's one of the sort of tricks to learn while you're learning how to paint, is how to wet the paper and when to start dropping the paint in. It does take some practice, so you can always practice on a scrap piece of paper to figure out what works best for you. And I'm just going over the body of the bird again, and I'm basically making all the areas that I've already mapped in on the first wash darker. And I've had a hard time with birds trying to paint them and get a consistent style. And the way I painted this chickadee, it just kind of turned out. I wasn't really planning anything. I was just sort of relaxed and painting in my sketchbook. And it ended up that I really liked the way this bird turned out with the sort of loose, fuzzy edges for transitions of where the color changes on the bird body. And I'm going to try and paint like this more in the future. The Stellar's J you see below has a bit harder transitions, and though I like that painting, I think I'd like to repaint it again with this method. So when I dropped that black in, by the time I'd finished that, the rest of the bird body was too dry, so I dried the black area completely again, and now I'm re-wetting the body of the bird to drop the rest of the color in. Again, just making sure you have a nice, even, clean water wash. Do take your time on this. It's less exciting than dropping the color in, but it's what will set you up for success for a nice painting. I'm still using a number 4 round brush, and this is a Munyo watercolor palette, and you can get them quite reasonably priced on Amazon, and there's a link on my website if you want to visit my website, www.laurawatson.ca, and there's a blog article showing you all my favorite supplies in all different price ranges for wherever you're at with your watercolor painting experience. So I'm adding the peachy tawny color in there, and while it's still wet, I'm adding in more dark color on the back wing area of our little chickadee, making sure I keep that white patch by the head nice and clean and crisp, but it's actually still wet there, so that's why the paint's bleeding in nicely. And I'm just continuing along, making little strokes now as the wash is still wet, but it's getting drier and the paint will spread less. And so this is when you can softly add in a little bit more detail, such as some strokes that will indicate where the wings are, and then I'm also just making sure my edges are nice and clean and pulling a little bit of color out to indicate the fluff that you would see on the bottom part of the bird. Now I'm just adding in more color on the feet. We are almost finished. I've added in everything I would like for the body of the bird and just a few subtle strokes to indicate where the wings are. Nothing too detailed or time consuming. And you can do the feet on their own, or you can do what I'm doing and finish the feet and then add a little branch or stick in where the bird is perched. It's up to you. And I'm just starting on the little branch. It's just a little bit off camera there for a moment. My apologies. Hard to paint and film at the same time. And I'm using the same colors as for the feet and parts of the body of the bird to create a harmonious look. So I don't want to introduce a different type of brown for the painting. It wouldn't look like it would be that cohesive. And so I'm just using the colors I already have mixed up to indicate a little branch that the bird is perched on. If you're looking for more resources or inspiration for painting, then do check out my website, www.laurawatson.ca. I have a blog there that I chronicle some of my painting series I'm working on, including my 50 watercolor flowers series. And I also have some articles on some of the best supplies to use and other economical supply options if you're just starting out that'll get you really good results. So make sure you do check out my website. I've switched right now just to posting a video once a month, just because I have some other projects I'm working on as well as YouTube. But I may post extra ones as well, but you can certainly count on a video tutorial once a month. And if you'd like to get notifications on when I post my video, then you can join my members list and subscribe to this channel. You can just hit the little bell icon beside subscribe, and it lets you select getting a notification when a video is posted, and then you'll be the first to watch the new tutorials and classes. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear what you think of it in the comments below. And if you have any questions or requests for future painting tutorials, leave them there as well. And I hope you enjoy your painting time.